everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a requested video. This is actually a house buying process video with like a Q&A in there. So if you're not too interested in house buying process, click off the video, which I'm sure you wouldn't have even clicked on if that's not what you were here for. So without further ado, let's just get started. I've got quite a lot to go through today. I've tried to make a list on my phone of the topics I want to talk about, so if I'm looking down at my phone, that'll be why. My hair's still a bit wet, so I've just gripped it back. But house buying. So if you are new to my channel, me and Ryan have just bought our very first home, and the process was a hell of a process. Like, it was not fun at all. I don't think anyone who's bought a house will sit and tell you that it's a fun process. It is in fact quite stressful. Some people have it better than others, and you know, it runs smoothly, but for us that wasn't the case, unfortunately. So today I'm going to run through basically the kind of process of buying a house, things to avoid, things to make sure you've done, and answer some questions as well, because I did put this on my Instagram. I'll probably start off with the Q&A because why not? So the first question I've got here is how much in total for solicitor bills? So being entirely honest, it does vary. Obviously as well, depending on which solicitor you go with, they'll probably all quote you slightly different prices. We went for one in our local city centre, and it was basically the cheapest quote that we could get around the area, and they tend to quote you on all the works that they're going to be doing, and then if when it comes to the end they've ended up doing more, then obviously they'll charge you more. So unfortunately in our case, because a lot of things needed to be done, we were actually charged an extra £1,000 for fees, which is quite a lot, but it just, as I said, it depends on what work needs doing. So how much in total? I mean, I'll just tell you that ours, including the extra £1,000, was about £3,500, which is quite pricey for just some solicitor like fees, because obviously they find out all the legal stuff for you, but you know, they do charge a hell of a lot. Sometimes you have to look into the terms and conditions, but sometimes they actually charge you like for sending an email or for opening a bit of post they send you. Like, it's the craziest thing. So I would definitely look into it before you pick your solicitor. In our case, I probably wouldn't go with the solicitor I had before. I would have maybe done a little bit more research before, and they do tend to take their time with things, so they can be a bit of a nightmare. Second question, how much paperwork do you have to do? There's actually not as much paperwork as I thought when we first got into it. So I'm just trying to remember, because our house buying process, the house sale, took 7 months to go through. It's now July, we've been in for 2 months now, how crazy. And we put the offer in back in November, so I'm just trying to remember exactly what we did. But in terms of paperwork, we had to do the first solicitor pack. So when we assigned our solicitor and we gave them the details of the new property, etc., they then forwarded us a solicitor pack to complete, which included our personal details. I think it had some of our outgoings on there, and it was quite a hefty pack, I'm not gonna lie, of information to fill in and send back to them. So once that was done, we didn't need to sign anything or do any paperwork stuff until the very end, I believe. I think that's right. Until the very end, when we actually exchanged and completed, we then needed to sign the paperwork, and that was that. So in terms of paperwork, honestly, there's not as much as some may think, but what you do get is quite hefty. What would my future self advise I do differently? I was thinking about this one because I wasn't too sure how to answer it, because to be honest, I feel like it's really hard to say, because when you're obviously in the process, you just want it done and you just, you know, bash it all out and that's it. So I think one thing sticks out that I would probably have to say is when it comes to actually getting your mortgage offer, we personally went with a broker. You can probably do it yourself. You can get a mortgage advisor and you get the offer, and then obviously the mortgage will always have interest. I feel like we could have found a better deal because our interest percentage rate is quite high compared to usual, I suppose. So yeah, I would definitely probably maybe look into that a bit more. But when we first started out, obviously neither of us really had a clue what we were doing, so that's why we relied on the broker. He did manage to find the best deal at the time, but I just think maybe we should have looked into it a bit more. What type of schemes are there? I'm assuming by this you mean like help to buy schemes and that sort of thing. So I am not entirely sure of all the schemes because obviously we just did what we did, so we didn't look too much into everything else. But I know you can get help to buys, which I think is 5% deposit on a new build, and that's about all I know for that. And then we had a life-saving ISA, which is an ISA account that we put money into each year, and then the government gave you back 25% of what you saved each year. So we both had a LISA, they call it, for 2 years, and the maximum you could put in a year was 4 grand. So the two of us had an account for 2 years, put 4 grand in for 2 years, and then they obviously gave us 25% back each year. So long story short, they gave us back 2 grand each. So we ended up getting 4 grand total from the government through the LISA scheme. So I would definitely recommend it, because you don't need to do any like 5% deposits with it. You can, it's just saving money. So once you come to buy your house, when you've got the sale of the house go through, like at the completion date, we then requested the funds from the ISA and they were just sent across, because all you need to do is show proof that you've bought a house, because that's obviously what it's for. So that's what we did, which we found really helpful. And then, like I said, the other schemes that are out there, I'm not entirely sure, because we just did what we did. So we actually put down 15% deposit, because at the time when we did go through the process, 5 or 10 was not available because of COVID. So we had to do the 15% option, which to be honest, we were quite happy with it anyway, because then over time that meant less, you know, less to pay each month. Okay, I think this is the last question. How should you prepare yourself to be ready for the process? So this is some do's I was going to point out. What have I written down here? So if you have a partner and you're buying together, I would recommend having a joint account, like a joint debit account, because it makes it so much easier for when your bills and, you know, your mortgage comes out each month. You can just set it all up on there, and then if you're paying equally, you can both put your money into the account, or if not, you can both still have access to the account to view it. So a joint account is something that I would definitely recommend. Just it's so much easier, and it's really not difficult to get. You just go to your bank and then they basically just run through a few questions, and then you're good. So that is one top tip. Another thing I'd say is probably sit down and think about exactly how much money you spend a month on outgoings, such as like your personal direct debits, everything you pay each month. Write down, calculate it, and then try and figure out how much you're going to have left over after your new bills and mortgage comes out on top of your personal bills, if that makes sense. So like, obviously you've got to account for things like council tax, water, electricity, gas, etc. And you might not know the prices of each of them individually just yet, but you can definitely guess an estimate and then work it out from there. But that's a handy tip to see just how much you're going to have left over. And then just the last thing I'd say for that question is to get yourself a credit card if you don't have one already, purely because when they do credit score, credit checks and stuff like that, I found it's better to have a credit card that you've used a couple of times and paid off, just to boost your score so it just looks better when you apply for a mortgage. We both got one. Well, Ryan's had his actually a few years because he needed it when we rented a car once, but I got mine probably about a year ago, and I just use it maybe when I do like a food shop or something and then pay it off like the next week, just so it's building up credit. I feel like this video is going to be a very long one as it's already been 10 minutes. I've been chatting and I've not even got onto the process yet. I want it to be as informal as possible and just easy to watch. I mean, I know maybe I should have done the Q&A at the end, but I wanted to get the questions out of the way and then we can go through it. So maybe I'll put a timestamp on screen of when I'm going to be talking about the actual process, so if you want to skip to that, you can. Things to avoid, I've only got one written down here for now, but as we go along I might think of more things. So basically what we nearly made a mistake with is we actually booked a mortgage discussion meeting with someone from an estate agent company. I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Connell's, you know. And it was just going to be a phone discussion, and then basically what happened was when we actually, because we started viewings like before we had everything sorted because we just wanted to get a feel for it, when we were shown round by the estate agent, a different estate agent around the house, they said, have you got your mortgage ready? And I said, I've actually got an appointment later with a different agent, and they actually recommended me a number to call of a personal broker. Because, fun fact which I didn't know, when you go through an agent, majority of the time they charge you a hell of a lot. So I think he was saying that they were going to charge something along the lines of £500 just for getting everything sorted for us, which, I mean, if you have that kind of money and you want to just spend it, then go ahead. But with our broker, everything he did for us was free, because it turns out he basically gets a commission on our mortgage. So every month he gets a little bit of commission from the branch that we went with, if that makes sense. So yeah, I would say if you're looking to discuss mortgages and get a broker, go to an individual like broker, maybe Google who's near you, but we got recommended one which was really lucky, and I actually knew his son, so it turned out quite well. Okay, I hope I've not bored you too much and I hope I've not confused you too much with the information, but I probably will leave some information down below in the description as well, maybe some links to stuff if I can find anything, just to make it kind of as clear as possible. But I'm now going to go on to the process of buying and cover as many points as I can. So number one being sort out your mortgage meeting, broker, discussion, basically like I just said. So that's the first thing we did, obviously after we did the few house viewings. So we got in contact with the broker we were recommended and he set a date for a meeting. So we had a meeting, I think a few days later on Teams, and basically told him our budget of the house, like the max we could put down as a deposit. He then worked out what we could borrow based on our wages, and that sort of thing. So what we did was we told him that we'd view a few houses and that we were looking, because we had a rough idea of the price range. So he then said, okay, he'll have a look into it, do more viewings and see if you can find one you like. He gave us a sort of price of, you know, ones to look at. And yeah, so we went away, we probably viewed in total, I want to say about 8 houses over the space of a good 6 months, because we weren't really in a rush because we were living at the flat. So yeah, we viewed about 8 houses I think, which was a good amount, because obviously it's fine if you view one, you absolutely love it, and then you just want to put an offer on. Like my friends did that with the first house they viewed, and that's absolutely fine if you do love a house that much. But for us, all the houses we viewed weren't really, when we walked in, we just weren't overwhelmed and weren't like, yeah, this is the one. But when we viewed this one, it was just different, we just knew. So anyway, we had a viewing with this place and we loved it instantly. So we booked a second viewing where we came back and we actually put an offer in. So what happened was, after the first viewing, I spoke to our broker and I said, look, we really like this one. Are we okay to go in with an offer? And he said, yeah, that's no problem at all. We shouldn't have any issues with being able to borrow that amount, etc. So I went back in with the offer, because obviously you get shown around by the agent and then you discuss with them if you're looking to purchase, and then they then liaise with the sellers to see if they're happy with the offer that you've made. And in our case, we couldn't budge the price because it had already been on the market for a long time, but it's definitely worth trying to barter if you can, which I didn't even realise you could do with house prices, but you definitely can. So once the offer was accepted, which all happened really quick, we got an answer like that evening. I then told our broker and he was straight on there looking at different mortgage providers and who could give us the best deal. He found us some deals. We then got back on Zoom and spoke to him and he showed us, and then we picked obviously the one that was the best one at the time for us. But like I said earlier, do your research if you want to get a good deal. And then you get a few options which I wasn't too sure on before either. So you get the option of whether you want to have a 2-year fixed rate or a 5-year fixed rate. So that basically means the mortgage offer that we've got, do we want to have that for 2 years, and then in 2 years time have a look at different ones, see if we can get any better interest rates or change lenders, things like that. So we opted for the 2-year because it just fit better with us, to be honest. I think 2-year is good, and then in 2 years if we want to do 5 we can. So we opted for 2-year, and then the other option we got was how long do we want to have to pay our mortgage off over, if that makes sense. So I can't remember what the options were. I think it was 25, 30 and 35 and 40 years. So obviously you pay your mortgage each month over a time period, and obviously probably the shorter the time period, the more expensive it is per month. So we actually went with 35 years because you can change that time frame. It doesn't have to stay that. We can change it to 30 or 25 depending on our lifestyle. But for us at the moment, because we're still young and we still want to travel and we're now engaged, so we're going to be getting married, we want to save as much money as we can, so we didn't want to have huge mortgage payments coming out, and obviously because we are young, that's the benefit to buying young, is that you've got more time, I guess, to kind of pay it off. So yeah, he definitely explained it all quite well though. I mean, before all of this I was no expert at all, and I'm not saying I am now, just helping out if anyone isn't sure and is interested in the process. But yeah, it's definitely helpful if you can to get a broker or an advisor. Okay, so once we had picked the offer that we wanted, I think he then drafts up whatever he drafts up, sends it off to the lenders, and they then request, I think it's 3 months pay slips. What else is that? ID documents and a few other things like that we had to send them, which obviously is no problem. That's one thing I would say is, if you are looking to buy, most places want 3 months wages to show that you're obviously going to pay your mortgage. And if you're self-employed, I think you actually have to be self-employed for a minimum of 3 years before you can get a mortgage, but correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's a much harder route to go down. However, when we moved in, Ryan actually has gone back now to self-employed, because now that we've got the mortgage, it doesn't affect it as long as obviously he pays it. So maybe if it's the case that you just get a job for a couple of months and then you can go back doing what you were doing. But yeah, to actually get the mortgage, it can be difficult. This is actually turning more into a story time than an actual like list of things to do. I feel like it's kind of turning out easier for me to just explain what we did than to actually tell you how to do it, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to think, where was I? Getting lost in my words now. Once the lenders have everything they require, they then either accept or decline the offer, and you usually get that through in like a letter, I think. So when we had our letter come through, they obviously accepted it, and I think they then give you 6 months from the time that they accept for the process to go through, which for us, we thought, oh, that's plenty of time, because we weren't expecting it to take as long as it did. But luckily, I'll get to it later, we actually managed to complete, I think it was a day before we were due to, it was due to expire, so we did turn out very, very lucky. So that kind of stage now is done. So that is one of the bigger parts of the process done. And honestly, when you have someone there to do it for you or to help you do it, it's so much easier, because you don't really need to think about it. You just tell them the information and they sort it for you. You can then put that to the side and kind of think about the next thing. So you've got your mortgage broker. Next thing to think about is your solicitor, which I touched base on earlier. Basically just phone around a load of solicitors around your area, get quotes for the conveyancing process, I think they call it. And then go with whichever one suits you best. And what they do is all the legal stuff. So they will get in contact with the seller's solicitor and sort out basically what needs to be done before you can move. I don't know entirely everything they do. I just know you need one. So definitely get yourself one of those, and once you've got one of those, they'll then send you out the first initial paperwork pack, and from there you can contact them and they will guide you through the rest of the process. So mortgage offer accepted, solicitor sorted. You then kind of just begin the waiting process, to be honest. So we actually thought we'd be in by February. Obviously we didn't get in till May, so things can happen along the way. And one thing that you do need to have done before you can move in anywhere is have searches done on the property. So I believe that's something that the solicitors sort with and deal with. So they basically get in contact with the council and then searches are arranged. At the moment, due to COVID, I know it's taking at least 3 months sometimes for searches to go through, which is absolutely crazy. Luckily with ours, it only took a couple of weeks, I want to say, if that. But apparently our house is quite new, it's like 5-6 years old. And apparently with newer houses, the searches are much quicker, because I guess there's not as much to search as like an old place, I'm not too sure. But a few weeks for ours, which was really good. We were super lucky with that, because I know people have been waiting ages at the moment. So that's one thing that needs to be done. And once that's done, if it comes back and there's anything wrong or anything needs doing, that probably then gets sorted out by the solicitor and it will get picked up. It will just mean it will take a bit longer, and there may be costs to doing all that sort of thing. I'm not entirely sure, like if there's anything wrong, I don't know, but we personally didn't have anything brought up in our searches, so we were quite lucky. Search is back, you then just wait and wait and wait a bit longer. You'll probably be informed of the process you're currently at. The solicitor will keep you updated with if they need anything from you, if they need anything from the seller, which if they do, they'll just go straight to their solicitor direct, because you never have contact with them. And in the meanwhile, you can get on and sort out things like your life cover and your home insurance, because those are all things as well that you do need before the mortgage can go through. So life cover and home insurance is something that our broker sorted out for us. So he went on, did a quote search and came back with some offers, which were really good offers, so we went with those. And it's as simple as that really. It's like if you get your car insured, you just do the searches online, comes back with a quote and you go, yeah, I'll pay it then. So we went for those and we didn't start paying it obviously until we moved. We just did the start date nearer the time of when we got the date for moving in and just set it from then, because obviously we didn't want to waste any money. So you can get that sort of thing sorted out while you're waiting. If you're going to be moving and you've got loads and loads of stuff, you can get removal vans, you can get, you know, hire dumps for the day, you can do all sorts. We didn't do any of that because Ryan's dad actually has a van and we moved about 2 minutes down the road, so we just used the van and went back and forth all day, and it probably saved us a lot of money because it can be pricey. In terms of stamp duty, I just wanted to touch on this because this video is basically for first time buyers, because obviously you don't have the hassle of selling your own house as well, and we know nothing about that, so this is for first time buyers. But in terms of stamp duty, you don't pay at the moment. This might change. I think they might even be scrapping it. You don't pay stamp duty if you're a first time buyer and the house is below, it's either 250 or 300,000. So if it's below that price and you're first time buyer, you don't need to pay it, which we didn't need to, which is great because I think it's something like 15% of the house, so it's a lot of money. But if you're obviously not a new time buyer, then you do have to pay it. But I think they were talking about scrapping that, but I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on it. This may just be one video. My camera keeps running out of memory, so I keep having to turn it off and on again to clear some space. But I think if I edit this, it will take me a while and it will probably be a good 30-40 minutes. But if you are interested and you don't mind sitting down and watching a long video, then this is the one for you. There's no point me doing it in 2 parts because we've nearly got there, nearly got to the end, we've nearly covered it all. It's getting late, I'm getting hungry, I need to crack on with me dinner, but I do want to just wrap the video up. So once everything's all gone through, I'm just trying to think if I've missed anything. I don't think I have. Obviously for us it just took so long that, I don't know, my mind was all over the place because one minute we thought it was going to go through, the next minute there was a scare. Just want to point out as well that a house sale can fall through basically at any moment, which is a scary thought, and hopefully for no one it will. But I think right to the end of completion date, it can pretty much fall through at any point until you've exchanged and stuff. So there is, or there can be, some hiccups along the way, like we experienced, but hopefully we won't in our next move, and hopefully none of you guys will, because it's not fun. And once the searches are back and they're all fine and you've done all your paperwork that you need to do, and vice versa with the seller, and they've found a house and moved, or they're going to rent, or whatever they're going to do, their situation, you then exchange, which basically means you exchange funds. So we paid our deposit directly to the solicitor, and then the solicitor then, I believe, sends that to the lender, the mortgage lender, and then vice versa. So the sellers will probably then exchange funds with whoever they're going to, and once you've exchanged and you've signed the contracts and whatnot, you then get the next stage, which is completion. So completion is basically picking up the keys and moving in. We exchanged and completed within a few days, which is usually about right, I think. So on the day of completion, because we didn't have to rush out of the house we were in, because we were still going to be having the flat for a few weeks after, we could slowly move across, so it wasn't too stressful on that day. So basically we waited for a call in the morning because the sellers had to move out and drop the keys off, and once they'd done that, we were going to get a call from the agent to to say that they're ready, which we did. We went and got the keys, and here we are. My hair's probably dry at this rate, how long I've been sat here. Pretty much is. Oh, my nose is really itchy. I really hope you enjoyed today's very long discussion. I should have warned you at the start to get a tea or a coffee or a beverage of choice and get cozy, because this is obviously a long one. I hope it's all clear, as clear as it can be. I think if you are new to it all and you don't really have a clue, people around you will guide you, like your parents that maybe have bought a house, or people you know around you will be there for support. And there's obviously Google as well. So yeah, I wouldn't be afraid at all of the process. It's just quite a long one. But if you're ready and you're raring to go, then absolutely go for it. I hope, as I said, that this has been helpful. Please leave me a comment down below if you have any questions, and I will see you in my next video, which will probably be a bit more of an upbeat video, maybe a vlog or something. I don't know what I'll be doing, but this is like a one-off kind of sit down discussion. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.